The employment market is changing. Now, you've got to remember that we still have twice as many job openings available as people out there looking for jobs. That tends to be run-of-the-mill jobs. But major corporations, Apple, Microsoft, Google, have already announced a slowdown or stop in hiring. And Google's CEO has even gone so far as to say that he wants to focus more on productivity from his employees. Why? The more productive they are, the less people he has to hire, but he's paying the same wages. Now, for those going forward, we have already realized that people are afraid of what's coming in the economy. Companies are starting to pull back. Consumers are starting to spend less and expect to spend less. So what does that mean? Well, this could become a self-fulfilling prophecy about some sort of recession. So when it comes to corporate hiring, you've got to look at these people because corporations have major deep pockets. So for them to pull back hiring on corporate level, listen, I'm not going to lie. I think corporate jobs are a joke. I think it's hire somebody, sit them at a desk, have them do some sort of BS and pay them an exorbitant salary. And it's just ridiculous to me. So when I hear that they're doing this sort of like, to me, it's more of a political game. Who can schmooze, who can do this, work up the corporate ladder. Am I downplaying it probably more than I should? Probably. I tend to do that, but it's probably not as far off as many people would think. We always look at these corporate people, these major mover and shakers, etc. But I've had many friends who leave the small business world, get a corporate job, and they always tell me how amazed they are about how inefficient and lack of knowledge people are. But Microsoft, Google, Apple, these major companies announcing a slowdown or a stop to hiring and even some layoffs could be an indication for what they see in the future in the pipeline for their business. Remember, a lot of these companies have major contracts that they're trying to sell out in the future. So if they already see a pullback, it's all going to be a snowball effect. Their customers might foresee a problem on the horizon for recession and want to be more cautious. Therefore, it doesn't justify the big corporate jobs and they pull back. So one of the major things I used to teach at my high school, just one class every week where I would talk about life, business, investing. And the one thing I always said to every high school senior, do you want to have a job the rest of your life? You'd say, yes, of course. Then be irreplaceable. Be the most reliable person for your boss someday. Be the person your boss goes to for everything. Because if that's the case, especially in a smaller business, you're going to be more reliable, they're going to need you more, and they're less likely to lay you off. If you're the person who's always skirting out early, taking vacations, and that, who do you think is going to get laid off first when they need to lay people off? They're going to lay off the easiest person. Well, that person's always taking vacations, so get rid of them anyhow. That's what I always tell. This doesn't matter if you're in the major corporation, small business, but especially in the small business world. And guess what? The vast majority of people in this country work for a small business. We have a small business here. Yes, it might be larger than most, but we have a small business here. And that means that I can feel when somebody's being more or less productive because we're all so intimately involved. Yeah, in the corporate world, you can probably get away with a lot more, but for the vast majority of people out there, you work for a small business. And so your job will be to be indispensable. If you're indispensable in your company, when times are tough, they're going to want to keep you. Now, you might still get laid off, but if you're getting laid off, it's probably because a bunch of other people who are not as useful and productive as you are getting laid off as well. So, what should you do? Keep doing that. But also at home, live within your means. Don't overspend. That way, if you're temporarily laid off, you can find a job, live off the cash flow you have there. If you have to pull back your savings, of course, because you're not making money, you can do that very easily. This is not rocket science, guys. Major wealth is created from systematic saving month in, month out without thinking. It takes a long time, but it's the way it goes. If you want to build that wealth, make yourself indispensable so you always have a job, always have a good paying job, because if you're indispensable, you're going to get promotions, you're going to get raises. And if you don't, you'll be desired somewhere else and you'll be able to move to another company for those raises. These hiring freezes and layoffs happening, guys, perception is reality. And if people's perception is, and I just read a study recently that 70% of people expect an economic slowdown coming up. If that's happening, it's trickling itself all the way through from small business all the way through to the big corporations. If big corporation sells major products to other major corporations, but they see a slowdown, they're going to pull back. It's all part of a vicious cycle. Even if this recession hasn't already occurred, it might actually happen because of people's response to the perception of a likely recession. And what drives a lot of it? Inflation. People are uncertain about where interest rates are going to go. When a small business has to borrow money to meet payroll or to grow, interest rates keep going up and up and up, are they more or less likely to invest back in their company? They're less likely to do so because it's easier when interest rates are lower. We all feel richer. We all feel we can buy more. We all do buy more. It's also that cycle, but eventually something happens that changes that. This is the boring boring repetition over and over of the same thing. I want you to remember that wealth is built very, very slowly from repetitive action, not built by home runs, not built by anything other than you doing the same simple things over and over. Building wealth is simple. It's not easy because we all want to sit there and be excited and do different things. And when we hear things like recession coming up, things like that happening, we all want to pull back. Well, don't do that. Your job is a dollar cost average. If you're worried about your job, try a side hustle. Try some other way. Go talk to your bosses and ask them before it happens, how can I add more value to the company? Now, I think you should be doing that at all times anyhow, but especially now, how can I add more value? Just getting in front of them to say that, when time comes to lay people off, they're probably going to have a more positive outlook on you versus others who did not take the initiative. It's easy to say it after the fact. Before the fact, go in there and say that. So going back to that comment about if something does happen, this could lead to a great opportunity for you to go out there and do the things you've always wanted to do, like start a business. But don't wait until you get laid off. Try the side hustle now. People always ask me, Paul, should I leave my job and start my own business? There's definitely a lot to be said for that. I do believe a lot in putting your back against the wall. It'll get the best out of you. However, that's not the way I'm programmed personally. I like doing a side hustle first and then growing it into something bigger as time went on. Save your side hustle money in one account. Don't live off of it because you want to be able to chop it off and say, I'm leaving my job and live off that side hustle money. But now is the best time to do it because even during a recession, a small business can still grow a lot. In the 08-09 recession, we grew a ton. Why? Well, one thing, we were value buyers, but two, our businesses were small. We could grow still, even though the pie was shrinking because our piece of the pie was so small. So go start that side hustle. Go to Thumbtack, go to guru.com, go to Upwork, figure out something you can add value to other people and start it. There's no better way than now. Worst case scenario, you make $500 or $1,000 a month doing something you like, adding that to your retirement savings, and that could lead to tens of millions of dollars at the end of your retirement. If you like what I've said, I want you to do two things. First off, subscribe to our channel. Second thing, click the next video where we talk about how we think recessions are an opportunity of a lifetime. Thank you very much.